6 long years had passed since I last drove down the gravel road that led to my grandfather's farmhouse. The place where I had spent my childhood summers, where his booming laugh once echoed across the yard. Now, everything was silent. My grandfather had died suddenly, one night, alone, in that old house. The death certificate said, natural causes. But everyone in town had whispers, stories they didn't tell me. I never asked. After he passed, I moved to the city. I locked the farmhouse and told myself I'd deal with it later. But 6 years later, I was back, driving past cornfields and barns under a fading sun. The air smelled like earth and hay, crisp with that late summer chill. My headlights cut through the growing darkness, but the road felt emptier than I remembered. When I pulled up to the farmhouse, the sky was painted orange and purple, but the air had a strange stillness, like it was holding its breath. I slowed the car, and that's when I saw him. An old man stood by the side of the road, bent with age. A long white beard, weathered hands, eyes sharp like he could see through me. "Son, don't stop here," he said quietly, but there was a weight behind his words. "This place, it isn't right at night. Not for you." I forced a laugh. "Grandpa's house is my home. I grew up here." He shook his head slowly, as if disappointed. "This house, it's not just walls anymore. It doesn't only hold memories. It takes people." I smiled uneasily, shaking it off. A final nod to him, and I drove on. When I glanced in the rearview mirror, he was gone, as if he had never been there. And still, a shiver ran down my spine. Something about that farmhouse, something about that road, felt different this time. I pulled into the driveway, gravel crunching under the tires. The farmhouse sat at the end like it had been waiting for me, hunched and silent among the tall cornstalks. The paint was faded and peeling, the wood gray and cracked from years of storms. The porch sagged, one corner almost touching the ground, and a lone oak tree leaned over the roof like it was guarding the house. I stepped out, the air instantly colder than outside my car. The wind whispered through the corn, carrying a faint smell of damp earth and rotting leaves. I grabbed my bag and walked to the front door, boots crunching on loose gravel. For a second, I hesitated, an uneasy feeling pressing in my chest, something I hadn't felt in years. I unlocked the door, and it groaned loudly as it swung open. Inside, the farmhouse was worse than I remembered. Dust hung in the air, motes dancing in the dim light. The wooden floors were warped and cracked, groaning under each step. Walls were scarred, uneven, and patched so many times they looked swollen. Some scratches were jagged, desperate, almost like someone, or something, had tried to claw its way out. I tried to settle in. I unpacked a few snacks, poured some water, and started a small fire in the old fireplace. The flames cast flickering shadows across the room, giving the walls a faint, unnatural life. For a few minutes, it almost felt normal, almost peaceful. Then I heard it. It came from the hallway that led to my grandfather's old room. My stomach clenched. I told myself it was the house settling, the floorboards shifting. But the sound had a weight, a deliberate rhythm, like it was meant to be heard. Something in the farmhouse was awake, and it was waiting. Shadows stretched along the walls, twisting in ways that didn't match the flickering firelight. Every time I glanced toward the hallway, it felt like the darkness moved just out of the corner of my eye. The fireplace flickered as though something had passed behind it, though the logs burned evenly. I froze. There, just at the edge of the hallway, a dark shape crouched low, blending perfectly with the shadows. My heart slammed. I told myself it was nothing. A trick of the light. Old houses do that. They play with your mind. The stairs. Someone, or something, was coming down, one slow, measured step at a time. Not heavy, not careless, but deliberate. My pulse raced. I felt its gaze before I saw it, cold, sharp, cutting straight through me. The air seemed to chill, icy against my skin, even though the fire burned warmly. I took a shaky step back, and the whispers started. Low at first, like the wind moving through the cracks. Then clearer, urgent, circling around me. Words I couldn't understand, syllables formed just barely, as if the house itself was speaking. I backed away toward the kitchen, eyes darting, trying to rationalize. It's imagination. It's old wood settling. It's just shadows. But then I realized something terrifying. This wasn't my grandfather's house anymore, not really. It hadn't just been waiting for me. It had made itself a home for something else. Something patient. Something alive. Something that had been waiting in silence for 6 long years. And now it knew I was here. I didn't know how long I stood there, frozen, listening to the whispers swirl around me. The shadows seemed to stretch longer now, crawling along the walls, pooling in corners like dark water. Every flicker of the fireplace made them move in impossible ways, bending toward me, pressing closer. Then I heard it, a soft scrape behind me. Deliberate. Not random, not accidental. Someone, or something, was following me. My throat went dry. I wanted to scream, but the sound caught in my chest. I ran for the front door, heart hammering, lungs burning. My hands shook as I fumbled with the lock. For a moment, it wouldn't budge. I pulled harder. Nothing. My panic rose like fire in my chest. Then the air shifted. A cold weight pressed against me, and I could feel movement in the shadows, slipping along the floor, reaching for me. The whispers became clearer, louder, sharper. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around. Empty hall. Only shadows, but I could feel them watching, circling, closing in. My mind screamed at me to get out, but the farmhouse seemed to expand, hallways stretching, doors twisting, like it didn't want me to leave. I finally yanked the door open, slammed it, ran to the car. My hands fumbled the keys, heart hammering so hard I thought the engine would hear it and stop me. On the third try, it roared to life. I didn't look back. Gravel flew beneath the tires as I tore down the driveway, cornfields blurring past. In the rearview mirror, the farmhouse stood silent, unmoving, but I felt its gaze lingering, like it knew I had escaped, this time. Something in that house had claimed it. And it was waiting.